Releasing to mediocre reviews across all platforms and being plagued by controversy, poor executive decisions, and lots of negative criticism, Ark Survival Ascended was essentially doomed from the start. With players citing issues such as bad game performance, bugs, glitches, and the increasing implementation of microtransactions and pay-to-win features to the game, Ark Ascended is shaping up to be one of the worst received remasters in recent years. A game that was supposed to be a huge overhaul of Ark Survival Evolved into the polished, more elaborate engine of UE5, as well as adding tons of new quality of life features and new content, ended up being a quick cash grab for the publishers at Snail Games amidst financial issues in the company and the threat of going bankrupt. And with Survival Evolved outperforming Ascended at every metric, from all-time peak to daily peak, player counts dropping to the lowest they've ever been, and a massive split in the community, it seems that the final Hail Mary of this franchise in order to keep it afloat may be the cause of its eventual downfall. So in this video, I want to construct a timeline of events as well as detailing specific circumstances and reasons as to why I believe Ark Survival Ascended didn't live up to what it could have been, and how Snail Games inevitably doomed Ark. Before we begin, I do want to preface this portion of the video by saying that while Wildcard is not entirely innocent in the events that I'll be talking about in this video, the majority of Wildcard's decisions are at the mercy of Snail, who controls the majority of the final say about the game, and Wildcard is often forced to retract on decisions, promote corrupt servers, and make generally unfavorable choices about the game under the control of Snail. So keep that in mind for this next portion. The first and perhaps most damaging event to the sales of Ascended was the walkback of the originally promised free Unreal Engine 5 upgrade of Evolved to Ascended. Ark Ascended was initially teased on the 21st of January 2023 in Community Crunch 345, and later with Jeremy Stieglitz, lead designer and co-creative director of Ark and co-founder of Studio Wildcard, making a tweet a few days later on the 23rd of January 2023, adding to the first teaser of Ascended reading, "The UE5 tease a couple of weeks back is referring to an in-the-works complete free upgrade/remaster of Ark Survival Evolved in Unreal Engine 5. This specific phrasing of calling Ascended a complete free upgrade/remaster is what inevitably caused so much outrage in the community, as not long after the tweet was made, on the 1st of April, Community Crunch 355 released stating that Ark Ascended would no longer be free, but would rather be put into a bundle called the Ark Respawn Bundle, which included both Ark Ascended and Ark 2 for a price of $49.99 US for PC and Xbox, and a standalone deal of $39.99 for PlayStation players with just Ark Ascended, with both bundles requiring you to buy any DLC added to the game after that. After backlash from the community about the bundle and the walkback of the free upgrade, Wildcard revealed that the previous bundle would be scrapped and the new price would be implemented, with Ark 2 being removed from the bundle and the new price being bumped up to $59.99, which included Ascended and all of its DLCs. So essentially, they took out a free Ark 2 and made the game even more expensive. This, of course, led to even more backlash from the community, so eventually Wildcard settled on a price, leaving us with what we have today of $44.99 for Ascended alone, with all map DLCs included for free. Whether this tweet from Jeremy was a premature statement or if Snail Games decided last minute that due to financial issues, which we'll get into later, they needed to make a quick buck to prevent themselves from going bankrupt and to fund Ark 2, we may never know. But later in this video, I'm sure you'll be able to decipher which one it most likely is. Adding even more fuel to the fire, Wildcard also revealed that when Ascended launched, all official services for Ark Survival Evolved were shut down, as well as all holiday events and update patches being discontinued, meaning all official servers would be removed, destroying all progress made on them for the entirety of Ark's existence. No new fixes for bugs would be rolled out, either for bugs that had existed since the game's launch or new ones that appear, and all holiday events would now have no new content added and would only be able to be activated manually in the settings of the game. The decision to remove all official servers from Evolved created a massive wave of disappointment and sadness to the community, especially on the PvE side of the game, which was highlighted well in this video by controversies. It was clear from this that players were essentially being coerced into purchasing Ascended and putting more money into the pockets of Snail. As you can imagine, this backpedaling from a promised free upgrade to a paid bundle and the inevitable removal of official servers caused outrage in the community, with the internet going up in flames for a time after this, with multiple articles, videos, and discussions arising in the community about just how disappointing and how much of a backstab this was, making the loyal fans of your franchise pay the price of a full game even if they had previously owned it for a remaster, and not even giving players a chance to continue using the official servers of the original game is simply unheard of. And for myself and others, this, as well as the next controversy we're going to talk about, were the nail in the coffin to not purchase Ark Ascended. The other controversies surrounding Snail that occurred even before Ascended launch created a massive hit to Snail Games' reputation, which ended up with many players losing their faith and trust in the company and leaving the game as a whole. This controversy was... Now, if you're familiar with the PvP side of Ark, or were keeping up with the story at the time, as large creators on YouTube such as Moist Critical and Asmongold were covering this, you'll know what happened. But for context, when Survival Evolved had official servers, the majority of these servers were run by the developers of the game, Studio Wildcard, which is its own separate entity from Snail Games. However, there was a single server cluster known as Conquest, a special official server type consisting of 36 servers that had 2x rates and focused on big tribes and battles, with a tribe limit of 25 players, which most importantly was enforced by the publishers of Ark, Snail Games. And it was on this Conquest server cluster where Snail Games employees played in a tribe under the name of T, which were regularly known for aimbotting, spoofing owners of enemy tribes and crashing servers, and had been doing so for years. On this particular day, T-Tribe abused their power at Snail Games by globally banning 93 players from the Conquest cluster, including Ark YouTubers such as Xphibo, Shockist, and Stupid Otters, which all have videos of their own that I do recommend you go and check out if you want their perspectives on the situation. But the story of events leading up to the ban and the aftermaths are as follows, with all of this occurring on the 8th of May 2023, 13 days after the Conquest server wipe.
We attacked a greenhouse of theirs in which we encountered some pretty bizarre quote-unquote server issues. It seemed that every time we gained the advantage on T, the server would drop and roll back. Every time the servers came up, teams previously killed by us were alive and well. This repeated about 10 times before we made the group decision to back away and not kill anything. And sure enough, the moment we left, the server was stable again.
After backing off, one of the tribe's members was banned for using a fabricated sniper rifle against T-Tribe under the claim of using aimbot, which has since been proven to be false from a POV released by the player accused and posted onto Shockist's channel. And after which, his appeal for the ban was ignored, as Snail Games, enforcing the server, also controlled the appeal process, which, as you can imagine, given their behaviour so far and what we'll see in the future, we're not going to unban this player after knowingly falsely banning him.
Towards the end, we engaged once more, killing a mana garmer, and when suddenly, you guessed it, the server crashed, rolled back, and the mana garmer was fine.
Otters would further go on to report to a GM of the Discord server about the incident, and of course, the report was ignored.
During the encounter, I had reported the issue to a GM who, at the time, was online in the Discord. However, my report went completely ignored, evidence and all. As it was 4 a.m. my time, I had to go to bed, and 7 hours later when I woke up, my ticket hadn't been responded to.
So this situation, which occurred only a few hours before the major banning of the Island Boys, just gives a small insight into the abhorrent and scummy behaviour of T-Tribe and Snail Games, which will be further proven when we talk about the ban of the whole tribe. Now at this point, after Otter's griefing party had a member banned and were ignored in an appeal attempt, 90 of the Island Boys members travelled to T-Tribe's main server and began to raid their base, and were successfully doing so completely legitly, even not bringing fabricated sniper rifles in order to avoid a repeat of the previous false banning of one of their members. However, as the Island Boys were slowly winning the fight, even soaking their main turrets, essentially about to enter T's base, T decided that they couldn't handle getting beaten any longer and took action, instantly banning all 93 members of the Island Boys tribe with no warning or even a server message. Now, while this ban did only affect the Conquest cluster, meaning the banned players could still play on every other official server run by Studio Wildcard and any unofficial server, it still shows the corruption and scumminess present in Snail Games and the whole situation essentially boiling down to theft, with these players purchasing the game, then being unfairly banned from playing a portion of it, with Snail running away with their money. And unfortunately, this is not the first time that T has unjustly banned tribes that have attempted to raid them. This whole controversy ended up with many players losing their faith in Snail, with comments posted on videos about this incident voicing their discontent with the actions of Snail and claiming that they would not be buying Ark Ascended, showing that this controversy added on to the lackluster performance of the sales. Anyone who's played Ark for any amount of time will know that this series is well renowned for its delayed releases of content, with almost every new map released to Survival Evolved being delayed by several weeks or even months, and of course Ark Ascended is no exception. Initially set to release at the end of August 2023, Ascended was later moved up to an October release of the same year, as stated in another community crunch. As well as this delay of the island, there were some other small delays for the other maps, namely the Center, Scorched Earth and Aberration, which were released the day after they were originally planned, and Extinction being delayed for 3 days after its original launch date, getting released on the 19th of December 2024. This delay for Ark Ascended from August to October, as well as all the DLC delays, is more par for the course for this company, but it of course angered players even more in the community, as Ark players have been enduring delays and broken promises of release dates essentially since the beginning of the game. And these delays do actually impact some people, as there are stories circulating on the internet saying that these people take specific days off work to play the new maps and DLCs for this game when they launch. But of course, when they get delayed, these people have just wasted a whole day and can't even play what they wanted to. Of course, delays in gaming are common, but the sheer amount of delays from this company, with 14 out of the 17 maps spanning across 2 games released by this company being delayed in some way or another. Over the years, many if not most players in the community were sick of these constant delays and have shown a lot of pushback and animosity against Wildcard. So, October of 2023 rolls around and Ark Ascended releases for all platforms to mixed reviews, which have stayed relatively consistent for the entirety of the game's existence, with reviews at the time of me writing this sitting at mixed on Steam with a 58% positive review rate, a 3 out of 5 stars on the Xbox Store, a 5 out of 10 on Metacritic, and a 2.2 out of 5 on Google. Looking at the reviews across all platforms for the first month of the game's release, we can see a common sentiment being echoed of the same problems, such as constant crashing after only a few hours of playing, terrible optimization and frame rates for any PC with less than top of the line specs, and bugs present from even the first game, bringing into question the claim that Ascended was built from the ground up completely separate from Evolved on its own code. Obviously, the game was not only received poorly, and had a lot of praise sung by a lot of members of the community for things such as the amazing graphics, which no doubt were an astronomical step up from the Unreal Engine 4.5 graphics of Survival Evolved, the quality of life changes that made the game a lot nicer to play than Evolved, the building fixes, and so on. But for many, a graphics upgrade and some new features isn't enough to make them want to fork over the full price of a AAA game for a game they already own, especially one with this many issues on launch. Stepping away from the timeline a bit, I want to take a look at the financial aspect of Snail Games before the release of Survival Ascended and the problems that Snail Games created for themselves as a result of their poor management of funds and where those funds potentially went. On the 14th of August 2023, Snail Games filed their quarterly report to the SEC revealing their declining financial state, with Snail Games reportedly being $9 million in debt with 2 outstanding loans of $6 million and $2.9 million due in December 2023 and January 2024 respectively. In addition to this, Marbis, more commonly known as Nitrado, agreed to loan the company an additional amount of $4,046,932, which is divided into 2 payments of an original $1,046,932 for the leasing of official servers for Survival Evolved and an additional $3 million for supposedly short-term funding for the completion of Survival Ascended as seen in the preamble and funding subsections of the report. With this loan from Nitrado to Snail Games, 2 repayment plans were issued stating, if Ark Survival Evolved is officially launched and released globally on the personal computer platform no later than on 31st of October 2023, Snail Games USA shall pay to Marbis an amount equal to 20% of the monthly gross revenue received by Snail Games USA and or any of its affiliates solely pertaining to Ark Survival Evolved up to the repayment amount until the repayment amount has been paid in full. This simplified essentially states that if Survival Ascended is released before the 31st of October 2023 for PC, Snail Games USA will have to pay 20% of all earnings made from Survival Ascended, including purchases of the base game and any DLC per month until the previously mentioned $4.05 million loan is paid in full. The other payment plan issued in this agreement is as follows. If Ark Survival Ascended has not been officially launched and released globally on the personal computer platform by 31st of October 2023, Snail Games USA shall pay to Marbis an amount equal to 20% of the monthly gross revenue received by Snail Games USA and or any of its affiliates solely pertaining to Ark Survival Evolved and the games up to the repayment amount until the repayment amount has been paid in full. This statement is essentially the same as the previous, however this one states that if Survival Ascended has not been released by October 31st, 2023 for PC, Snail Games will have to pay 20% of all monthly revenue from Survival Evolved, Survival Ascended upon release, Ark 2 upon release, and all DLC surrounding the franchise until the loan is paid off. So as you can see, by this time, Snail Games essentially had their balls in a vice, as if they failed to release Survival Ascended by the 31st of October 2023, not only would they lose 20% of their earnings from Survival Ascended, but also from Survival Evolved, Ark 2, and all the game's DLC that had been released by that point and that would be released later on. Back when this information was first coming out, people were speculating on whether the game would be rushed or even finished by the time the game was released, as most could already tell that Snail was not going to release Ascended after the 31st of October. Now in present day, of course we know the answer to this, with Ark Survival Ascended being released on the 26th of October 2023 to PC in early access. Yes, Ark Ascended, a remaster, was released in early access, which is just completely absurd and unheard of. But it was obvious it was released in this state so that the developers had an excuse for the game being riddled with the aforementioned bugs, constant crashes, and bad performance that we talked about in the initial release section of this video. So as we now know, Survival Ascended was a rushed release plagued with issues just so Snail could get some funds to save their dying company and, as we'll see in a moment, funds for the development of Ark 2. But apart from releasing an incomplete remaster in early access, which is unheard of in its own right, what other remedies did ASA introduce to make some extra cash to prevent Snail from going bankrupt? Well, pay-to-win dinos, paid structures, weapons, vehicles, and cosmetics all wrapped up into two bundles, one being called Fantastic Tames, priced at just below $5 each, and Bob's Tall Tales costing $30, and adding premium mods to the game. The Fantastic Tames addition to the game were, and still are, a bad sign of what's to come for the future of Ascended. Initially released with the Pyro main, and now most recently with the Dreadmare, these creatures and how they've been implemented show serious problems with the management of this game. First off, the pay-to-win aspect of these creatures for both PvE and PvP is grossly apparent. The Pyro main being able to compress down into a shoulder mount completely defeated the purpose of having no cryopods when it was originally released, as you could simply walk into a cave and bring it off your shoulder to be one of the most powerful cave running creatures ever seen in Ark. And in PvP, could turn into a shoulder-mounted flamethrower, meaning if you were facing an opponent in PvP who didn't have the Pyro main, which we'll get into later, you would have a huge advantage, but only if you cough up more money to Wildcard. The Dreadmare, additionally, has the abilities to prevent enemies from healing, removing enemy buffs, and creating a shield that scares away opponents that come near it. These creatures are without a doubt pay to win, which is reflected in the Steam reviews, with Pyromane receiving a mostly negative review on Steam and the Dreadmare receiving a mixed review. Unfortunately, however, these creatures do keep getting bought, which gives the green light to keep adding more and more of these in the future, and potentially even increasing the prices for bigger and better dinos. One of the worst executive decisions made about these creatures is how they still spawn on your maps even if you don't own the DLC, meaning they will clog up your dino spawns and you can't even interact with or tame them. This is an absolutely horrible decision made by the developers. Like seriously, what the fuck were they thinking? Thankfully now there are mods that can cull them from creature spawns, but even that is unnecessary. Why should your player base have to download a mod to remove creatures that they can't even interact with anyway without giving you money? And as they add more and more of these fantastic tames, the worse and worse this will get, with more and more creature spawns being taken up by untamable creatures. In addition to the Fantastic Tames expansion, the Bob's Tall Tales expansion is a paid addition to the game that brings in some new content including exclusive creatures, vehicles, buildings, cosmetics, workstations, weapons, and tools. However, some in the community have spoken out about the pricing of this expansion, as well as the divide it creates between players who own it and players who do not. Now, a case can be made that because the DLC story maps are free on Ascended, that the higher pricing of the other expansions is justified, which is fair. However, some have made the argument that for the amount you're paying, you would expect to get more out of this expansion. For example, when Ark Scorched Earth released to Evolved, it brought with it 12 new creatures with 5 variations, 1 boss, a whole new map with a new weather system unique to it, a new building type, 6 new structures, a new armor set, 5 new weapons and tools with some new ammo types, new resources, an armor cosmetic set as well as several weapon cosmetics and a saddle cosmetics for the price of $20. Bob's Tall Tales, on the other hand, across 3 maps being Scorched Earth, Aberration and Extinction, priced at $10 per map, but seeing so far you can't buy each map's Tall Tales expansion individually and you have to purchase all 3 for $30, this is what all 3 maps offer. 4 tameable creatures, 4 vehicles with 3 variations for the extinction battle rigs, 6 weapons and tools, 34 structures including decorative structures, and 21 cosmetics ranging from armor to saddle to structure cosmetics, and including cosmetic sets, all of which sell for the price of $30. As well as the pricing, another issue that should have attention brought to it is the divide this causes, and once again the pay to win aspect of some of these items. For example, the Sir 5RM8 is a robot companion that can automate tasks including harvesting resources and repairing structures, a stopwatch, a literal teleportation device that teleports your character back to a designated marker you place down in a certain radius, a clock that speeds up crafting for nearby structures, the Steam Forge which smelts metal almost 4 times quicker than the Industrial Forge and gives you more metal ingots for raw metal, and a Tesla Coil, which is a defensive structure that electrifies enemy players and tames. And that's just from the Aberration version alone. But back to the divide this causes with the player base. If you're in a tribe with someone who does own Tall Tales but you don't, you'll be able to interact with everything in the expansion, but you won't be able to learn any of the engrams yourself. Similarly with the Fantastic Tames creatures. But if people can play on servers together, whether they have Bob's Tall Tales or Fantastic Tames or not, how is that fair to the people who don't own it, who get a massive disadvantage in some aspects of the game? And the whole expansion is essentially a massive advertisement saying, look at all this cool stuff you could have for yourself, but only if you give us some more money, and if you don't, well, sucks to be you. Now, would I say the Bob's Tall Tales add-on is bad? No. I think it's a great way for people who may have already experienced these maps in their entirety before to have some fun new experiences, as well as bringing new content to the game, which is of course healthy for its continuation. However, the pricing of this add-on and the pay-to-win aspect still brings forth concern, as it shows that Snail is okay with charging higher prices for arguably less content and implementing pay-to-win items into the game, which is never good. The final major monetization aspect to this game, while not being as damaging as Bob's Tall Tales and Fantastic Tames, still is an issue. Premium mods on Ark Ascended can range from $2 to $5 and, from my research, have a 50-50 split in revenue between the mod creator and between Wildcard and CurseForge, each getting 25% of the revenue. The premium mods is something of a double-edged sword, as allowing revenue made from mods to go back to the creators allows for more agency from the developers to create better, more detailed mods and allows their work to be supported. However, it seems pretty apparent that the premium mods were added more so that Snail, who does get a cut of Wildcard's revenue, could cover their financial issues rather than to support the developers behind these mods. Otherwise, the revenue share would not be 50-50 and would more look something like 80-20 or a 90-10 split if their sole intention was to just support these mod developers. Many in the community have pushed back against these, however, as little to no other game that supports mods has ever done something like this. There was an attempt by Bethesda and some other game studios to add paid mods into their games some years ago. However, the player bases of these games pushed back hard against these and eventually they weren't implemented. Many in the Ark player base have also voiced their discontent with these premium mods, citing reasons such as Snail attempting to monetize most new things that they introduce into the game, and with some people stating that mod developers should not be inherently paid for their time, as making mods is a hobby rather than a job. Of course, most of these monetization methods may not have needed to happen if Snail did not initially go into debt. So how did that happen? How much money did Snail make off of Ark, and where did those savings go? Well, here's what Lieutenant Buzz Lightyear found.
According to this LinkedIn profile for Doug Kennedy, CEO and co-founder of Studio Wildcard, Ark Survival Evolved has grossed over $1.3 billion since it released in 2015.
So Ark Survival Evolved has made $1.3 billion in revenue from its early access release in 2015 to 2023 when Lieutenant Buzz Lightyear released his video, with potentially more earnings coming out after that, which really begs the question of where the money went. Well, thanks to some digging by Nooblets, we know that some of the money, most likely, allegedly, went into the electric vehicle startup known as Indie EV.
So I googled Indie EV, Shihai, he's the CEO of Snail Games USA. And holy shit, he's the founder of Indie EV. I thought, okay, maybe Shihai's a commonly used Chinese name, and it might be somebody else. But if you scroll down to this article on The Verge, nope, it's him, the founder of Snail Games. Wow. I bet that cost quite a few hundreds of millions.
The whole of this video is quite damning and exposes a lot of damaging things about Shi-Hi, the founder of Snail Games and IndieEV, and IndieEV itself. So I've linked the video in the description because it's definitely worth the watch. However, I'll do a short rundown of the important points. IndieEV was founded 2 years after Ark release, being founded in 2017, and only managed to release one car in its 6-year lifespan, the Indy 1. And since that time, IndieEV has filed for bankruptcy after racking up $26 million in debt. It's pretty funny how everything that Shi-Hi touches manages to go to shit. When asked what has been funding IndieEV during its lifetime, IndieEV's head of operations, John Kennedy, declined to provide any details. And finally, Shi-Hi has been sued 3 times over claims of racism, poor treatment of employees, and wrongful termination and wage theft. So while it's not confirmed that funds from Ark went into IndieEV, indicators such as Shi-Hi being the founder of both companies, denial of where the funds came from, IndieEV going into debt, which is a common pattern when it comes to things Shi-Hi owns, and a missing $1.3 billion, which definitely is not how much it costs to develop a game, so the funds must have gone somewhere. So to recap this part of the video, potential reallocation of revenue made from Ark to fund a separate vehicle startup company that filed for bankruptcy 6 years after its creation has caused Ark Ascended to practice content paywalls, and in an attempt to incentivize people to purchase these add-ons, made them pay to win and advertise them by implementing them into unofficial and single player, but making them unable to be interacted with, locking people out of unofficial servers without paying a fee for the premium mods, as well as going back on the claim of the free UE5 upgrade. All of these together created a sense of betrayal in the Ark community, with many feeling that they had been lied to and taken advantage of just so Snail and Shi-Hi could cover their terrible financial practices. So to wrap up this video, I do actually want to go over some reviews people have left on the game. So we've got these 2 Reddit threads here. This one was posted 7 months ago. Is Survival Ascended really worth it? And then we have another one here from 3 months ago. Both of these have pretty varying opinions. So this one from 7 months ago is mainly positive opinions, and this one is mixed, more leaning towards negative. And then we've got some Steam and some Xbox reviews to go through as well. And you know, the players ultimately are the consumers, and they dictate whether they think the game is good or not. So I just want to go through and see the community's opinions on the game, because they really do have the best insight. So we have, is Survival Ascended really worth it? So I'm actually going to skip this top comment and most of the top ones, because I want to go through and look at ones that actually are detailed. So here we go, first one. For Xbox, this person says, Fire Ice 134, Xbox, absolutely. In my recent experience, single player has been functioning almost perfectly. And this is definitely a good point to bring up. ASA is definitely built more for single player and PvE. I've seen a lot of people in the multiplayer, and specifically the multiplayer PvP community, bringing up how bad this game is for them, from stuff like, because the graphics are so intense and they want the highest frames possible, it really makes it difficult. And there's also a bunch of bugs and glitches, which obviously doesn't help with multiplayer. So this is definitely something that is gonna probably pop up a lot, I'd say. This game is just better on single player, and there's not really much that can be done about that unless they fix all the bugs and issues in that. The only thing you can complain about is the frame rate, but as a console player I'm kind of used to that since my original Xbox days. The frame rate is bad. I wouldn't say that's the only thing you can complain about. There's definitely other things like the bugs and the, you know, sometimes I've heard people talk about graphics, glitches, stuff like that. And of course the pay to win that I talked about, that's definitely something you can complain about. Single player's been saving. I haven't crashed once. They fixed a lot. Now this, I saw this line and I was like, this is a very conflicting line, because as we're going to see in these other reviews, there are a lot of opposition to this. I've seen a lot of people say they fixed a lot, and a lot of people say they fixed barely anything. So I don't know if that's a difference between people's consoles, or if the people who say they fixed a lot have rose-tinted glasses, or if the people that say they fixed nothing are just lying. Because I haven't personally played this game myself. Yeah, they've put a lot of work into the game, obviously. And they said I could not have said this 4 months ago, so that kind of does show that this person believes they have fixed a lot, but we'll see. We'll get into that with some later ones. We've got another one down here. This one's good. It depends. I think it is with console mods being a thing and not having to use pipes and wires. This is good. I do agree that putting console mods into the game definitely elevated it to an extent, because I remember when I used to play Survival Evolved back on my Xbox, I was really upset that I didn't have access to mods. But now obviously I play it on my PC, so I've got mods galore. Downsides, it's more buggy than Survival Evolved. That's definitely true, because, and we'll get into this later because I saw another review that talks about this, and we'll get definitely more in depth to it. It seems that the Ark Survival Ascended code wasn't actually built from the ground up like the developers said it was, and it was actually just ripped from Survival Evolved, and that's why there are so many bugs, but we'll talk about that later. There are only 2 maps at the moment, third one coming on June 4th. This was obviously posted 7 months ago. There's now 4 maps, and a 5th one is coming out tomorrow, as of me saying this. And the game is terribly optimized yet. So that's definitely true. It's very badly optimized, but Ark is, I'd say the Ark series as a whole, both ASA and Survival Evolved, one of the worst optimized games that exists just across every single game that's ever existed. It's one of the worst optimized games, and that obviously is going to bring a lot of negative feedback. And this thing about the maps, we'll get into that later. A lot of people are sticking with ASA right now because they actually prefer having access to all the maps. And this person says, even on my PS5, I was having trouble with my frames around swamps and redwoods, but it fixed itself, and he personally likes it. So frames, obviously, massive problem. Even on PS5, which is, not very good, because PS5 is the top of the line console right now, along with the Xbox Series S and X. So if there's frame issues on those, there's definitely problems. Obviously, there's frame issues in other games. But yeah, that brings back into the terribly optimized. Everyone has low frames because this game is terribly optimized. This one is I saw this one. This one's a very good review. In my opinion, I think ASA by itself is fine. However, keep in mind it needs a beastie rigs, has bugs and issues. That's true. This brings back into the PS5 comment up here. You do need a very good computer to run this game on high graphics with high frames. Not even high graphics. Sometimes you need a really good computer to even run this on medium graphics with 60 FPS, just because of how horribly optimized this game is. The mods and visuals are nice, and that brings down into this one as well, which I saw, as well as the mods and visuals, and that's also down here, building fixes and quality of life stuff. So mods and visual improvements and the building fixes and quality of life stuff are really the only 4 things I've seen people praise this game for. That's it. Those are the only 4 things. There's nothing else that I've seen people say that Ark Survival Ascended is an improvement on, except for those 4 things. And that is really one of the driving forces in why I think this game is not doing good, because an improvement on just small things like that, mods and visuals, building fixes and quality of life, that's not enough to keep a player base around, especially with all the bugs and problems that this game does have. And going on, however, lack of content is real, and while the Center is coming out in 2 days, obviously that's old. Yes, this lack of content, and that is bring up with the maps up here. The lack of content really is not helping this game, especially with every single map, all the content currently being out on ASE. Eventually they'll get to it. They'll get all the content up and running on Ark Survival Ascended, and I think then the game will get more players. But right now, while it doesn't have a lot, that's where it really falls off. And now we're going to look back at this one. This one was posted 3 months ago by Lean for Meme. So after nearly a year, what do you think about Ark Survival Ascended? We're going to go over this now. So top comment. Went back to ASE again the other day. not touching ASA until the 5.2 update drops. Got tired of the poor performance, especially on Aberration. Other than that, ASA is great. The quality of life changes, graphics, new creatures is definitely the better version overall. But they really need to go and put some effort into optimizing and improving performance. Yeah, so here we go. Okay, there's a new one, new creatures. So that makes 5 things. So I'll eat my words there, I was wrong. So 5 things. But yeah, no, ASC, not touching ASA until the 5.2 update drops. This is definitely true. The optimization is what is killing this game, I'd say. And like I said before, this stuff isn't enough. Quality of life changes, graphics, new creatures. That is not enough to keep your community with the game. They want good optimization. They want their game to run smoothly, and that just does not happen on Ark Survival Ascended. And judging by how Ark was treated in terms of optimization, I don't think Ark Survival Ascended is going to be well optimized anytime soon, if at all. I think it's going to have terrible optimization for the entirety of its run, and that's a massive problem. Yep, here's another similar one. Quality of life improvements, graphics, quality of life. Tames, also improvements, another thing. Performance, lacking big time. Personally sticking with ASA because I'm one of those masochists who enjoy playing officials, but I do see appeal of sticking with ASE for now. This is a important point. I'm not going to go over this stuff because we just did. The shutdown of official servers, it was obviously done to coerce players into playing ASA, and I can't obviously speak on this person for now, but I know a lot of people do stick or are sticking with ASA just because they can't play official servers on ASE. I've seen a lot of people say that if official servers weren't removed for ASE, they would keep playing ASE. And obviously that coercion worked because this person is sticking with ASA just because they can. That's the only way to play official servers. Yep, and here's that comment that I was talking about the code. Still wondering where the new code is. This was Wildcard Snail Games' opportunity to turn their low-budget indie game into what countless fans deserve. Instead, ASA is constantly reminding us of what company they truly are. They took their win years ago and sold out instead of creating a decent product and losing out money on the long run. Guess they're making up for it now with every pay-to-win trope in the book. It's still Ark, so it's okay, I guess. Yeah, so here we go about the pay-to-win stuff. This is what I was talking about before in the video. Yeah, losing out on money and then making up for it with the pay-to-win tropes. That's definitely true with the Pyromane and the Dreadmare and all the Bob's Tall Tales, sorry. Like, that's their moneymaker. Because the game purchase is just a one-and-done game purchase. You get everything for free, all the maps and stuff like that. But then to get this additional content, which is pay-to-win, you do need to pay. You need to cough up a lot of money. Like, as of right now, USD, if you want Bob's Tall Tales and Fantastic Tames, you need $40 USD for a few extra tames and some extra other content. Yeah, and the new code, that's what they said. There were some, when I was going through, the developers did say that this game was being made on a new code, but when the game launched, it still had bugs, the same bugs from ASE, which would not be the case if it was built on a new code. So it's pretty much all but confirmed that they lied. ASA was not built on a new code. It was built on the same code that ASA was built on. Whether it being a case that they got lazy halfway through making a new code and they just updated it to the old one, or they were lying from the beginning, we probably won't know. But yeah, it's pretty obvious that the game was not built on a new code like they said it was. Yeah, and this comment actually specifically is where I got my information that there are mods to get rid of them that I talked about in the game. But here we go. The game itself is fine. I'm put off by the implementation of paid mods and creatures on maps. And there are mods to get rid of them. He knows how to code them away in the INI files. I play without them, but I dislike when a game I paid for forces me to jump through loops to get rid of something I did not pay for. And it's just shitty treatment of your customers. Absolutely 100% true. The implementation of paid mods and creatures is bad. It is a bad decision. It just goes to show, like this person said, that Snail and Wildcard does not care about the fans of this game. I'd say more Snail than Wildcard. because Wildcard unfortunately doesn't really have a say in these things. They are caught under the thumb of Snail a lot, but it just goes to show that the people behind this game, especially Shihai, do not give a flying shit about you people, about all the Ark players. He does not care. He'd rather get money than see you people happy. That's just how it is. Unfortunately, it's the truth. I love this game and I wanted to see it succeed, but the management behind this game really is killing it. Here's another one. I went back to ASC the other week. It felt amazing compared to ASA. I'm not sure I'll touch ASA ever again. Also, no one ever mentions how the graphics aren't terrible on ASC, especially on a map like the Center. I'd much rather play a huge map like the Center with no lag than try to play it on ASA. This is fair. I personally have seen people talk about how the graphics on ASE do look outdated and very old and very bad. But this is true. I see where this person is coming from. Why play on a map? Why sacrifice lag and your frames just to play on the exact same map with a few graphics upgrades and a few features added like new landmarks and stuff? I don't see a point to that, to be honest. It really doesn't change the quality of the game. For me personally, I much rather frames and lag over graphic quality, but that's just me. Obviously some people disagree with that, but yeah, I would much rather play maps like the Center with no lag than play on ASA with lag and just a bit of graphics upgrade, you know what I mean? The Center is so big and filled with life, it's pretty much unplayable on ASA because of performance. That's true with the optimization that I brought back, that I've mentioned countless times in this segment of the video. Alright, and we are going to go ahead and move on to the Steam reviews for Ascended. And I've gone to the recent reviews just so we can get more of an updated opinion on what people think of the game. So we've got a positive review here, 2,000 hours. Even with all the issues the game has had, it's still a lot of fun. And that's, you know, that's fair enough. If you like this game, if you enjoy it, if you have fun playing it and you don't mind the issues or the issues bug you but you still have fun playing it, that's perfectly fine. You're allowed to enjoy the games you like. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. If you want to buy this game, if you want to spend money on this game, it's all up to you. It's just important to recognize the problems this game has. And this person only has 1 hour and they actually refunded it. Could run Ark Survival Evolved pretty well on medium-high graphics. Couldn't make it past character creation on low graphics for this game. Wow, yeah, so that's actually pretty bad. I don't know if this person has a bad PC or what, but yeah, not making it past character creation on low graphics that's bad. That is very, very bad. That just goes to show how crazy this game is. Okay, here's one that was posted recently. This person has 159 hours, 160 hours on this game. PvE server quality is awful, and every server you log on to, people have blocked off any buildings, so you can't even start the game once a server is a few days old. This was a problem in Ark Survival Evolved as well, so this isn't a specifically Ascended related problem, so I'm not really going to focus on that. It's so toxic to new players. If you saw people playing this and thought, I'd love to give it a try, unless you specifically want to play solo or host your own server, don't buy this game, you will regret it. Obviously, there's ways around this. You can play on PvP, because there's the structures you can just demolish or they'll get demolished. Like, it's very hard on PvP to just put pillars everywhere, unless it's around your base. Yeah, no, you don't just have to play this game solo. But I've never personally seen the PvE servers on this. I've only actually seen people play on solo and PvP. So I can't really talk to this. But if that's true, then yeah, that is a massive problem. But that's not an Ascended specific related issue. So that's not really too bad. Okay, here's a review. 500 hours. Recommended. This is the best game I've ever played. I've spent more time taking care of baby dinos than I have taken care of my own children. I've gathered enough wood to be a lumberjack, enough minerals to be a miner, and put enough berries in dinos' butts, so you should be on a registry. If you want to do any of those things, this game's for you. Yeah, if you do want to do any of those things, this game is for you. And you can enjoy this game, like I said earlier. But yeah, it's more just a problem with the development behind this game and the actual companies. But if you enjoy what the game has to offer, feel free to enjoy that. you know, it's all up to you. And I'm actually going to have a look at the 2 top voted reviews for this game. So we're going to start with the recommended one, because this one actually is not that great for a recommended review, and I'll explain why in a second. Just thought I'd help out with people's frames by this review. Use this command r/volume extra, and then it says a bunch of commands that you can go through to reduce your frames or increase your frames, sorry. And the reason I say this is not a good review is that they're recommending it and then they're going ahead and, which is fine, you can recommend it. This review for the recommended game is how you can increase your frames, and that's obviously a massive contrast here. Like when the top rated review, like this is the top rated review on all the reviews about this game, is about how to increase your frames. That really just goes to show how terribly optimized this game is, how horrendously bad this game is for optimization. And this is a big one. I'm just gonna read over this really quickly. I'm gonna skim it. This bait and switch should be illegal, so this will talk about the UE5 upgrade, I assume. To start off, this was originally announced as a free update to Ark Survival Evolved. That was a lie. Then it was a free expansion for people who purchased Ark 2. That was also a lie. It was then announced there would be one-time payment and you get the expansions for free with it. Another lie. Is that a lie? I mean, that's not a lie. It is a one-time payment and you get all the expansions for free. So unless this line is actually talking about it'll be a one-time payment and you get the expansions for free, another lie. Unless this line is actually talking about Fantastic Tames and Bob's Tall Tales, I don't know what they mean by this, because it is a one-time payment and then you get all the maps for free so far. So yeah, I'm not actually sure what they're talking about with this one. I assume they're talking about Bob's Tall Tales and the Fantastic Tames. I have thousands of hours in ASC, purchased every DLC season pass. Obviously I love Ark, but I purchased this upgrade thinking, okay, I paid for a graphics update and integrated mods, and while I wasn't happy about that, I decided to pay the one-time purchase price. Yet here we are again. Not only did everyone have to pay for the engine update that was supposed to be free, they are now locking items and diners behind paywalls. Yeah, okay, so that is what they're talking about with this line. So yeah, they're talking about the Bob's Tall Tales and Fantastic Tames. And yeah, no, I understand where he's coming from. And keep in mind, the only reason that Fantastic Tames and Bob's Tall Tales do exist, and you have to pay for them, is because of Shihai and Snail Games and the terrible business practices over there. I'm not saying that those 2 expansions wouldn't exist if Shihai didn't waste away all the money from Ark, but it definitely is a contributing factor. And maybe if he didn't do that, there would be even cheaper or perhaps even free additions to the game. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. Every week I come back to check the game, they're asking for more money, and to top it off, they said before the release, new Unreal Engine 5 would make the game less buggy and run a lot better than the original Ark. It does not. It is way worse, and it has exploits that were fixed years ago in ASC. They just copy and pasted the old code. Yeah, I talked about this earlier, and as you can see, this person every week come back check this game. They haven't played in the last 2 weeks, so it's pretty safe to say this person has probably quit the game. I know I sound like a baby right now, but these people have lied to their community too many times, and I wish I could get a refund. They tried. I paid for what was supposed to be a free upgrade, and I was told would be the only payment. Now they ask for more and can't even make the game run properly. It should be taken off Steam, in my opinion. I'm sick of being scammed by shady companies like this. And yes, it will probably get me banned from the official server in Discord, but okay, we're gonna ignore that. Unless they actually did get banned, and that's why they've got 0 hours, but no. So we're going to ignore that last part because that's definitely not what's going to happen. Taken off Steam, probably not, but this game is built on lies, and it is a massive scam, which is unfortunate, and that is something to keep in mind when you are purchasing this game. If you love Ark, buy it. If you are fine with supporting these type of practices, or if you just don't know about them, that's fine. You can purchase the game. It's up to you. It's your money, but it's important that people know about this, know about the community's feelings about this game, and know about all the terrible and shady dealings that this game has gone through to be made, unfortunately. And well, that wraps up the video. I want to give a thank you to you if you made it this far. This is my first attempt at a video like this, and I do want to continue making long form content in the future across a range of topics. The next one will be another video game video, and it'll be about Firewatch, if you guys like that game. But yeah, leave your opinions in the comments on how you view all this. If you think the monetization about this game is justified, if you think Ark Ascended was actually successful, and any other thoughts you might have. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys next time, hopefully.